So we'll have our next audience question, and we will start with Mr. Marsh, so he doesn't feel forgotten. And that question will be, what is your opinion of the biomass plant?
Thank you very much. I had never really considered myself an environmentalist, but I was always glad there were other people who were. We all have things that are our passion, and it's like, there's business people, I look at them as I say, well, they know how to do this, and we let them do that. But even I thought there was something kind of fundamentally wrong with the idea of this regressive technology of going back to burning trees. I'm not one of those that think we need to be burning coal for the next 200 years, even though they say that we can burn coal for the next 200 years. But the thing is, we should be moving in a more forward direction technology-wise. Everything that I'm getting about burning trees is that it's not as clean as burning coal. And of course, once you commit yourself to burning trees, they say we're only going to burn waste wood, but sometimes you end up having to create waste wood, and you do that by cutting down trees. So it's a new learning curve. It's something that I don't think that we should do, and I definitely don't want us with a 30-year commitment to this technology. How many of you would get a cell phone with a 30-year commitment? I don't think any of us would do that, and we certainly shouldn't do it with biomass.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marsh. Mr. Selwach.
I started my opening talking about the proposed biomass plant, and I ran out of time. It felt like a minute instead of 2 minutes. So I'll continue where I got cut off. In addition to burning trees being bad for our environment, the City Commission entered into a contract with American Renewables to sell us the energy generated for 30 years while blackening out and redacting the details and costs that the GRU customer will be paying. These undisclosed costs will make your electric bill go up, not down. We need to stop the biomass plant now. Go to www.stopgrec.org for more information. That's www.stopgrec.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Selwach.
That's the contract. Definitions have been deleted. The cost is going to be deleted. This is not government in the sunshine. We deserve better. There are alternatives: wind, solar, natural gas, nuclear. And I get the bell again.
Thank you, Mr. Selwach. Mr. Hawkins.
Richard's a tough act to follow. I don't know why you made me go after him. I want to address a couple points. I'm trying to speak quickly because there's biomass is more than a 2-minute issue. But regarding a 30-year commitment, my student loan payments are amortized over 30 years. My mortgage is a 30-year mortgage. When you buy something that you're going to get use out of for 30 years, it makes sense to borrow money over the term of that usefulness. That's not a ridiculous idea. I think all of us make those kind of financial decisions at some point in our lives. The contract is redacted. The state of Florida decides what is public record and what is not, and they have explicitly stated in Florida statute that this kind of contract is not public record, and it's the private company we've contracted with has determined that it's proprietary and asked that it not be entered in the public record. I've read it thoroughly, and I think that it fairly allocates risk between the city and the private company and protects ratepayers. The most significant thing I can say about the biomass plant is that when we use biomass as a fuel instead of coal as a fuel, we keep those jobs locally. Harvesters of biomass in forests in north central Florida are people who are going to be paying property taxes in north central Florida, having jobs in north central Florida, and living here rather than sending the money to a coal-producing state out of our region. That's good. I also think that it's environmentally a good choice. The majority of this waste wood is going to be stuff that's it's currently being burned in the field, not being used productively, that instead we can burn in a power plant to generate electricity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Okay, our next question is a League and Women for Wise Growth question. With no clear economic upswing on the horizon, how would you continue to balance the city's budget? Please name specific programs or areas in the budget that you would target for cuts. Or name potential new or increased sources of revenue. And we will begin this question with Mr. Selwach.
Yeah, we need to balance the budget. We need to focus on essential services. We need to cut costs, reform pension funds, and cut unneeded departments and non-essential services. We need to make government smaller. So one of the departments that I would cut is probably the Equal Opportunity Office. We're already there. We have an openly gay mayor. We have a black president. We've arrived. We don't need it anymore. If elected, I would need an assistant. I could share Craig Lowe's assistant. Perhaps we could take the fluoride out of the water, stop mosquito control, and look at everything, every contract we need to take a look at, but focus on the essential services.
Thank you, Mr. Selwach. Mr. Hawkins.
Balancing the budget every year is one of the most important things that the city does, and we do balance it every year. We don't have deficits that carry over year to year. The city's not like the federal government. We can't just issue bonds or issue debt to fill the gap, and we cannot pledge our tax revenue against a bond issue without a vote of the voters. So that's something that we do every year. We're not living in a world of deficits, as some people might imply. But getting to that balanced budget every year isn't easy, and I don't think there's an area of the city government that's fluff that we can just cut out and magically nobody's going to notice that we have fewer public services and we're paying a different tax rate. It's constantly about looking where we can find new efficiencies, about trimming small amounts off the budget. Some things that I've advocated for in the past that we haven't done are looking at our participation in the Joint Aviation Unit. We have 3 public safety helicopters in this county, and maybe we could do away with just the 2 that the sheriff's office owns. But every year that we do that, it's difficult. One thing that we're going to be talking about in the spring that the city manager's been going through a thorough review of in the last 6 months and is going to come to the city with recommendations on is making sure that our pension program is actuarially sound and seeing if there are changes that we can make to the pension program and still give adequate benefits, but with lower cost over the long term. And it's a constant hard work, and we need to keep at it.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Mr. Marsh.
Oh, where do we begin? Well, what we could do is, now that we've got this nicely refurbished golf course, we could put it on the market and see if someone else will buy it. We're scheduled to lose $300,000 a year on that. That's the plan. The plan is to lose $300,000 a year. The One-Stop Homeless Center, this is something where it's really not the business of a city government to be doing this. This is, you have people in this town who minister to the homeless at no cost to the city. And what we should do is try to make it as easy for them to do it as possible, instead of sending the homeless out to the outer fringe and then busing them back in. That seems kind of counterintuitive to me. Another thing that we can do is, we have a number of buses that only have a few people riding on them. I see it day in, day out. We burn 2,500 gallons per day of diesel fuel. And why we're not using something the size of an airport shuttle to service those lesser routes is beyond me. And all of these things would save money. We could also put, when we need more office space, rather than obtaining more office space, we should let some of our people telecommute. That way we also get their cars off the road, and it's all win-win.
Thank you, Mr. Marsh.